meltdowns and emotions and tantrums, some of the most challenging challenges that caregivers have are behaviors and how to manage, how to support, how to be there for kids, and how to make them not happen again and again and again. So this video will be about 3 ways to prevent tantrums or meltdowns. And I'm Katie Crosby from Thriving Littles. I'm a pediatric OT, a consultant, and a coach working with kids and families to guide. And I also have courses and content for you to really feel empowered and have tools in your toolbox that help you get back to intuition and all of that instinct that you have within that's covered up by so much programming and conditioning and what all the information out there is telling us what to do. So 3 ways to prevent a tantrum. First of all is to reframe this and think less about preventing the tantrum and more about the opportunity within it. Yes, I know this may seem hard to believe, but if we think about tantrums and emotions as an opportunity that kids can connect with us and develop their body and develop their brain in a way that they can manage emotion. So kids cannot manage emotion that is not part of what we're born with. We learn this through relationship and through connection and interaction and thousands of repetitions with a caregiver that is close by and present and able to be there with kids in these big emotions. First of all, thinking about emotions also as a release. So this is a time where kids can just have all this stored complex sensation and complex emotions in their bodies that they may have been feeling for the first time. So sometimes a meltdown is communication about a need. What is the child trying to communicate in this emotion or in this meltdown or in this behavior? And 2 is sometimes it's an opportunity for healing or release of all of this stuff built up in the body that needs to be expressed in some way. So you think about this as adults, we have all these ways for keeping ourselves calm and organized or regulated is the big term. And kids really need our support as adults to help figure out what works for them. So number 1 is really reframing this tantrum or reframing a meltdown as something that could be healing or communication or a way to learn about the world. So they need us to be clear, they need us to be open and present and able to problem solve as much as humanly possible. So there's no perfection, there is never a human that could do this perfectly calm and organized all of the time. That's just not the case, that's not how we work. So thinking about this as a human process versus something that we need to end immediately and really, really resist can help us to be more present in these moments. 2 is to see the child in this moment versus distract. So when we think about emotion, Jill Bolte-Taylor, who's a neuroanatomist, has gone through and determined that it's really about a 90-second or 2-minute release of emotion that is really essential to get it out of the body. And what I mean by get it out of the body really is feeling a sensation and noticing it and accepting it in a way that we can integrate it, meaning we can sit with it and be able to experience it versus want to distract. So a common thing I see is that distraction is recommended as a technique for any emotion. So any emotion that comes up, we want to distract. We want to be a shiny object and get the kid out of that emotion. And a problem with this is that the patterns that we set in early childhood for dealing with emotion are patterns that we will have all throughout life. So we will tend to carry those patterns and those ways of being with us all throughout life. Meaning that if we help kids to be distracted to something else in that moment, we also are letting them know indirectly and non-intentionally that emotions aren't a safe space to be, and it isn't a positive or a helpful thing to experience emotion. We need to get rid of it ASAP. So when I think about this as teenagers or adults who want to distract, what are the tools that we go to? We go to numbing. We might go to alcohol or drugs or even just endless screen time. All of the maladaptive patterns or the adaptive patterns really sometimes that we have to distract ourselves because sitting with that primary sensation or that emotion in the body is feeling too big for us in the moment. So if we think about this with kids, early childhood is really an opportunity, and it's never too late for this. I think many of us could still benefit from this now and do. It's really thinking about this as what is most helpful overall? What is most effective for these kids to develop the capacity to experience anything that comes up in the inevitable challenges of life and the ups and downs of life? How can we help these kids to experience what it is and not see it as this big scary thing or this awful thing that we need to get rid of immediately. But it's something that comes up for 90 seconds or 2 minutes. That's definitely not a black and white, linear, perfect time. It will definitely take longer than that at times. However, if we can model this like, oh yes, that's sadness, or oh yes, that's anger, or yeah, you're frustrated and this makes sense. We help the body to feel something on the inside and have something on the outside match. So there's a lot of phrases to think about. We can say connect before expect, or connect before redirect, because it's really that connection that allows kids to feel the security and feel the safety in order for them to get to a problem-solving state on their own. So they really don't need adults to problem solve again and again. In the beginning, they may need it and they may need options, but really if we can provide safety and security for the body and the brain, that's one of the most profound things that we can do. So thinking about this as number one, reframing what a tantrum or meltdown is, and number two is seeing the child in the emotion. So seeing that humanity and seeing this as an opportunity versus something that we need to avoid all the time can be helpful. This brings me to number three. It's validating, normalizing, and re-engaging with positive affect in some way. So going back to, we want the child to know how this makes sense. We want what we are saying to them to match their inner experience in some way, because this is how emotional regulation is developed. We feel something uncomfortable or yucky inside as a child. We aren't sure how to make sense of it, so we react, we behave, we hit, we kick, we bite, we scream, because we don't have the tools as kids to communicate what we are feeling in an articulate way. And this may be confusing because maybe outside of the moment, this child is articulate, they're talking in sentences, they are bright, they're communicating, and then in the moment, that all goes out the window because kids do not have the capacity, that full brain development yet, which is the prefrontal cortex, to monitor and modify the impulses that come up in their body. So number three is all about if we can make meaning of it for them in some way, like, no wonder you're sad. We just spent so much time with grandma and grandpa and we're leaving, or they were just at our house for so long and now they're gone now. This makes sense. Of course you're upset. You're hitting your brother, but I wonder if it's actually that you're sad about whatever happened. And maybe we don't use as much language. We can have lots and lots of other videos on the how-to of doing this specifically because it's really nuanced and it's really complex. And no, it is not always convenient because distraction is something that works really quickly. So yes, at times we may use these other tools. However, it's just saying that overall we want the relationship to be set in this connection because that is what cultivates true cooperation and not just compliance, and they're doing something for the short term and it's a quick fix, which yes, again, we will absolutely use sometimes. Good, bad, right, or wrong, it's really thinking about not good and bad, but what's most helpful in this moment for this child and this family system in this situation. So in this, re-engaging with positive affect, this is all about going through the emotion and then getting to the other side with them. So yep, we may be validating. Yes, we may be normalizing. So I wonder if you're feeling this way, this makes sense, da-da-da. And it seems like emotional, fluffy stuff. However, it's really, really backed in all of the science and all of the processes that are happening in the body and countless experiences working with so many children and seeing this work again and again. So I wouldn't share this information unless I had all of these experiences and working with kids that have vulnerabilities with all of these areas and vulnerabilities with emotional regulation or sensory processing, which really impacts their capacity to be calm and their capacity to be organized. So at the end, it's all about bringing them back to a positive affect in some way. And this doesn't mean every single time will be tied pretty with a bow. It means that we give an option for an interaction or some type of connection afterward to help them work through it. So when we think about emotional regulation, it's being able to go through these waves of emotions that come up and travel that wave with them and get through it with them, because it's not about avoiding waves or not going in the water at all, which is kind of what we're doing when we distract. It's about going through that wave and recognizing it's part of the human experience. And we can do it together, and it might even be valuable in some way. What this may look like is something like, I know you're so bummed to leave the park. I know. It really stinks. You had so much fun on that slide. You were going down the slide. I wonder if giving you a piggyback ride would help. So what this is doing is it's not jumping immediately to distraction. It's not jumping immediately to what's your problem, don't do this, all these shaming things that want to come up likely within us because all these patterns are set in childhood, and we are a behaviorist world, so we like to see positive behaviors for better or worse. So if we can honor the child's emotion and then re-engage, or then present connected opportunities that feel really interactive and not like we're shaming this child away or we're isolating the child away, it becomes this pattern that they can internalize in their own body, in their own self, and begin to think, yep, I feel really bad right now, but this is temporary and it's okay. And I think about this for all of us that have had anxiety or depression or mental health challenges, how it can feel so deep and dark in these moments of intense emotion. And going through this process is really a way to help build resilience and help set a foundation for kids and help us see them in all of the human emotions. Because if we only accept the positive ones, if we only want them when they are bright and happy and smiley and shiny, then we send a message totally unintentionally that if you are bad, or if you hit, or if you kick, you need to go to this room and you need to be separate from us. You need to be isolated, which Brene Brown talks a lot about shame and this sense of belonging, and how if they feel like they are shamed from their family or shamed from their community for doing certain things, it becomes this perpetual spiral of emotion that comes up every time they do something small. So maybe they hit and they think, oh, uh-oh, I did that, and their shame spiral starts to come up, that guilt spiral starts to come up, and it becomes a cycle that's really tricky to end, because then they have all the emotions to manage on top of what they were already feeling. So we're not getting to the root of what is happening, and it ends up being this kind of vicious cycle or hamster ball that's just spinning around all day long and never coming to rest. And everybody feels isolated in their own hamster ball. So this is all about coming together. So number 3 is beyond that validating and normalizing, we are connecting and re-engaging with them and showing them that, yes, you're human, this is okay. No, it's not okay to hit, we need to figure that out. No, we aren't condoning all behavior by doing this and honoring emotion. Absolutely not. That absolutely isn't the case. We want to model accountability, and we want to model and help them know that we are the bigger, wiser, kinder, stronger adult, as Circle of Security training says. We always want to be able to provide the safe container for kids. So if they're hitting, or if they're in a situation where they are harming others, or they are creating kind of conflict, or even doing something that just is really, everyone's looking at them in a certain way in public, it is part of our role to help them feel safe and secure, but also separate them in those moments in a way that honors their humanity and honors their capacity to be in a safe space that maybe would be separate from others with us at that time. So there's no black and white in any of this. I'm hoping you're getting that idea, and I'm sending you all luck in managing and dealing all of these emotions. If this was helpful for you, please subscribe to this channel and like it. I would love to hear what you think below in the comments. And we will talk more and more about meltdowns and tantrums and all of this in many other videos to come.